Hello candidates, I am going to dictate you a passage of 1000 words at the speed of 110 words per minute. So please get ready for the dictation. The dictation will start after 15 seconds. The committee in their original report had found that besides deficient procurement planning, the procurement process in DRDO was also afflicted by serious procedural shortcomings. The purchase management procedure of DRDO issued in July 2000 had stipulated that open or global tenders should be invited to generate as much completion as possible. However, to the contrary, in 17 out of 30 cases, in respect of 5 laboratories, limited tenders were resorted to on grounds of urgency for effective purchases. The committee were disturbed to note that out of 5 cases processed as urgent, 3 orders were placed after 13 to 21 months of raising of demands. In 12 other cases, the time gap between the raising of demand and actual ordering ranged from 5 to 11 months in 8 cases and over 12 months in 4 cases. In the opinion of the committee, the grounds of urgency to justify limited tendering thus had become questionable in such cases. The Secretary DRDO also was very candid in admitting that resorting to limited tender on grounds of urgency in such a large number of cases was not procedurally justified and could lead to some lapses. The committee had been informed that with the amendment effected in the procurement procedure in DRDO, the process of procurement had been specified with better clarity that would help reduce margin of error on the part of operating units. While appreciating the efforts made by DRDO in right earnest, the committee had desired that in future cases of procurement under urgent circumstances should be critically analyzed and closely monitored so as to ensure that delegated power was not misused and objective of procurement was fully achieved. The committee note from the reply furnished by the ministry that in 75% of the cases where limited tendering was resorted to by DRDO on an urgency basis, the average time taken by placing the supply orders has not been mentioned. Further, in 25% of these cases, the reasons for limited tendering were not given. The committee desired that the full details such as reasons for resorting to limited tendering and the average time taken for placing orders after raising of the demand and actual time taken in delivery of stores from the date of placement of supply orders in respect of each of the case may be furnished. While expressing satisfaction over the steps taken by the ministry for streamlining the procedure relating the procurement of stores on urgency basis, the committee expects that DRDO should strictly monitor the cases where limited tendering is restored by the laboratories or establishments on an urgency basis. It should also be ensured that such cases are kept to the barest minimum possible. The committee would also like to be apprised of the progress made by the laboratories or establishments in this regard and the number of cases where limited tendering was restored to on grounds of urgency after issue of the revised guidelines or instructions. From the reply furnished by the ministry, the committee note that out of 9 regions that have been advanced by the respective laboratories or establishments for waiver of liquidation damages from the suppliers in 35 cases involving rupees 67.12 lakh, 4 regions namely delay on account of approval of drawings, chemical analysis of material, pre-dispatch inspection and inspection by labs were stated to be on account of lapses by the concerned labs or establishments and could not be attributable to the suppliers. The committee recommended that these reasons should be critically reviewed by DRDO and the outcome of the such review along with corrective measures taken to prevent recurrence of such instances should be appraised to them. They would also like to be apprised of the instructions issued by the DRDO to labs of prescribing the time limit or frame for development activities that were required to be undertaken by them so that the prescribed time schedule for delivery of equipments by suppliers can be strictly adhered to. The committee are constrained to point out that there were delays ranging from 3 to 12 years in disposal of surplus or obsolete machines costing about rupees 4.71 crore in 3 laboratories, namely CVRDE, DRDL and DMRL. The committee have been given to understand that long delays occurred in disposal of surplus or obsolete equipment because the quoted price of the equipment were much lower than the assessed value of the equipment, that is the reserved guiding price fixed by the designated committee. According to the ministry, if the highest bid is less than 50% of the RGP fixed, there is no option except to refloat after refixing the RGP as per the present rules. The committee do appreciate the problems faced by DRDO in this regard. In the face of the fact that equipment could not be sold even at reasonable price, the committee desire the DRDO should work out a scheme as suggested by Secretary DRDO where technical institutions, engineering colleges and IIT institutions can take some of these equipment for imparting training. In the opinion of the committee, this is judicious proposition for salvaging the best out of surplus or obsolete equipment rather than striving for disposing those at a throwaway price. The committee recommended that the ministry should come out with a policy to give effect to the proposal at the earliest. To sum up, since a substantial portion of the DRDO budget is spent on purchase of materials, a foolproof procurement planning and effective utilization of plant and equipment needs to be ensured at laboratories or establishments level to derive maximum value for money. Since availability of equipment is critical for the completion of projects, this would also ensure timely completion of projects within the projected costs. The committee feels that identification of surplus item and their disposal has to be made a regular and time-bound exercise to realize optimum sale value. Moreover, mechanics remaining idle for want of repairs need to be renewed on a regular basis and immediate action taken for their early repairs. Further creation of a central database of prospective suppliers that is accessible to all the laboratories or establishments needs to be made a prioritized task for avoiding delays in location of reliable supplies.